January 27th, 2026, Buddha Dhamma, Section 4, A Worthy Life, compiled by Somdet Prabuddha Gosacharya, English name P.A. Payutto, Chapter 14 on Faith and Confidence, 14.1, Introduction, page 1361 to page 1366. 14.1 Introduction of Chapter 14 on Faith and Confidence. The meaning and role, the importance of sattha, faith, in the Buddha's teaching is as follows. Sattha, faith here, does not mean handing over complete responsibility to something or someone without applying sound reason judgment. On the contrary, to do that would be an expression of emotional immaturity. Sattha, faith, is from the Pali verb satthani, to entrust the heart, from the Sanskrit root sarat, deemed to be linked to the root harit, heart, and taha, to place. The English words heart and cardiac are related to the root sarat. This chapter is incorporated in the chapter on virtuous friends, which we just read about on chapter 13. Now, faith is merely one stage, sattha, the first stage, actually, in the development of panya, wisdom. Correct sattha, faith, is connected to reasoned analysis. It must lead to and be validated by panya, wisdom. It is the opposite to handing over complete responsibility or total entrusting oneself to something or someone else without applying reasoned sound judgment, which is the expression of simple emotionality, avega, and leads people to stop making inquiries. Sattha, faith based simply on emotion, is a form of gullibility. It should be amended and ultimately eliminated. Granted that the emotion stemming from a correct kind of sattha, faith, can prove useful at the early stages of Dhamma practice, but in the end it is replaced by panya. The sattha, the faith included in wisdom development, is perhaps better defined as self-confidence. A person has a strong conviction based on critical reasoning that the aspired to goal or ideal is both valuable and attainable. This sattha, this faith, inspires a person to validate the truth which he or she believes to be reasonably accessible. To help define faith in a correct manner, all the teachings in the Dipitaka contain sattha in a group of spiritual factors, also contain panya, wisdom, as a accompanying factor. And normally, sattha, faith, is listed as the first factor, while panya, wisdom, is listed as the final factor. Here there are many examples, including virtue is conductive to future benefits, samparayikata, faith, moral conduct, generosity, and wisdom. Virtues conductive to growth, visuddhi dhamma, faith, moral conduct, learning, generosity, and wisdom. Spiritual powers and faculties, bala indriya, faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Qualities making for intrepidity, vesaracha karana dhamma, faith, moral conduct, great learning, application of energy, and wisdom, noble treasure, ariyatana, faith, moral conduct, moral shame, fear of wrongdoing, great learning, generosity, and wisdom. Now, the teachings emphasizing wisdom, panya, however, do not need to include the factor of faith. Here's factors not including faith. The examples are virtues to be established in the mind, atitana dhamma, wisdom, truthfulness, generosity, and serenity. Factors of enlightenment, bhojana, mindfulness, investigation of truth, energy, rapture, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. Qualities which makes for protection, nata karana dhamma, moral conduct, great learning, association with virtuous peoples. Amenability to correction, willingness to give a helping hand, love of truth, application of energy, contentment, mindfulness, and wisdom. Because wisdom governs all virtues and is the essential factor, it is more important than sattva, faith. Even as a personal attribute, panya, wisdom, rather than sattva, faith, is the decisive factor for those individuals who are most highly praised in Buddhism, like the chief disciple, Venerable Sariputra, are those who possess the greatest wisdom. There are two distinct benefits to sattva, faith. Faith conditions piti, rapture, which give rise to passaddhi, tranquility, which in turn leads to sukha, happiness, then samadhi, concentration, and finally panya, wisdom. And sattva generates virya, effort, the endeavor to undertake spiritual practice and to put to the test those things believed in by sattva, faith, in order to witness the truth for oneself, which eventually leads to panya, wisdom. Now, faith as a supporting condition, faith leading to piti, rapture, faith leading to energy, vidya. Faith helps to generate mental strength and fearlessness, which are attributes of vidya. It is good to note that faith, unsupported by panya, wisdom, is a force leading to concentration, including the extreme high levels of concentration, which are forms of mental liberation, sito vimutti. These states of mind, however, are still subject to vacillation and stagnation. They do not necessarily lead to panya, wisdom, and even obstruct wisdom. Faith, accompanied by wisdom, on the other hand, generates concentration that supports the further development of wisdom in the final stage. Faith and concentration lead to liberation by wisdom, panya vimutti, which makes for an unshakable liberation of mind. Although these two benefits stem from the emotional basis, the process leading to their culmination must always contain an inherent aspiration for wisdom, as the purpose of true sattva, faith, is to support panya, wisdom. Sattva, faith, must promote critical discernment, which leads to wisdom development. Faith itself is well grounded and secure only when a person has established confidence and dispelled doubts through rational inquiry and understanding. In the Buddha Dhamma, the quality of faith thus supports inquiry and investigation. The methods of appealing to others to believe, forcing others to accept a prescribed truth, or threatening disbelievers with punishments are all incompatible with the Buddhist principles of faith. Faith and devotion to another person has drawbacks. The Buddha Gautama even encouraged his disciples to abandon devotion to himself, because such devotion is heavenly invested with emotion and can become an obstacle to complete perfect liberation. Faith is not classified as a factor of the path, because it is wisdom guiding the validating faith that is the necessary factor for progressing on the path. Furthermore, those persons with great wisdom, for example, the perfectly enlightened Buddhas and the private Pachika Buddhas, begins on the path of wisdom without passing through the stage of faith. The cultivation of wisdom need not always begin with faith. It may always begin with yoniso manasikara, wise reflection. Therefore, the Buddha Gautama inserted the concept of sattva, faith, in the section on developing sammatiti, right view. He did not distinguish faith as a separate factor. Even faith that passes beyond what is called blind faith is still considered incorrect. It does not reach the stage of inquiry and the aiming of clear vision, because it fails to fulfill its function. Spiritual practice stuck at this level is still defective because it lacks a true objective. Although faith is a significant benefit at the final stages, it must come to an end. The existence of faith indicates that the true goal has not yet been reached. Because as long as one believes in the goal, it shows that one has not yet realized it for oneself. As long as faith exists, it reveals that a person still depends on external things, entrusts wisdom to external things, and has not reached perfect wisdom from freedom. Faith is therefore not an attribute of a arihat. On the contrary, an arihat has the attribute of being faithless, asattha, which means that he or she directly realized the truth and no longer needs to believe in another person or in a rational explanation for the truth. To sum all this up, progression on Magga, the path, is gradual, beginning with sattva, faith, developing into seeing or understanding in line with cause and effect, kamma, ditti, and finally leading to knowledge and vision of the truth, nana dasana. At the final stage, the task of sattva is ended. The importance and advantages of sattva, faith, should be clearly understood. One should neither give sattva too much value nor hold it in contempt, both of which have harmful consequences. A disparagement of sattva, faith, reveals a misunderstanding of faith's role. A person may possess a high degree of self-confidence, but this may simply be a belief in one's own mental defilements and manifest as conceit and egotism. In relation to sila, moral conduct, sattva, faith, is a vital factor. It provides people with supportive principles that act as deterrents, enabling them to resist temptations and provocations and to abstain from performing bad actions. Sattva, faith, also provides a channel for thought. When people experience a sense of impression that does not overwhelm the mind, does not exceed the power of the principles instilled by sattva, faith, the course of their thinking follows the path followed by faith. Thoughts do not stray in unwholesome directions. For people who are still subject to mental defilements, faith thus sustains virtuous conduct. Although sattva, faith, has many benefits, it is not accompanied by wisdom, then it can be harmful. and it can even hinder the development of panya, wisdom. In reference to wisdom development, panya, it is possible to give a rough outline of the various stages of sattva before one reaches a consummation of wisdom. It goes as follows. One develops views based on sound reason. One does not believe in things simply because one has been told by others, in accord with the Kalama Sutra. One safeguards truthfulness, Satcha Nuraka. One listens to the teaching, opinions, and doctrines of various parties with objectivity. One does not rush into making judgments about things that one does not yet truly know. One does not stubbornly insist that one's personal knowledge and opinions represents the truth. When one has listened to the teaching and opinions of others, has seen that they accord with reason, and has observed that the person who offers those teachings is sincere, unbiased, and wise, confidence arises. One accepts the teaching in order to continue an examination of truth using reason analysis. One contemplates and examines these teachings until one is convinced that they are true and correct. One feels deeply impressed by the truth that one has witnessed and makes effort to further one's investigation in order to deepen a realization to the truth. If one has doubts, one hastens to inquire from others with a sincere heart. One inquires not to shore up one's identity, but in order to gain wisdom. Faith is consolidated by proving the truth of reason arguments. In this way, the purpose of sattva, faith, the purpose of faith is fulfilled. That's the end of 14.1, Introduction to Faith and Confidence. Leaving off on page 1366.